Hi, this is Charles Levy with itSMF Chicago. We're actually here to provide you a quick snippet of what you will be in store for in the future with our presentation or delivery from David Poltoric. David Poltoric is a 20-year veteran, if you would like to say that, or professional in the realm of IT service management. Dave has an extensive background in delivering ITIL guidance and also instructional materials through his business Accelerus, as well as through Poltoric and Associates. He's actually helped author a number of the documents that we are so fond of, which is ITIL v2, ITIL v3, as well as ITIL v4 documents, manuals. I guess in some cases, maybe he's contributed to testing materials, I'm not sure. But Dave has an extensive experience and a passion for delivering insight and critical skills to practitioners, as well as to clients and customers. Dave has actually provided consulting and advisory services for multiple organizations, both large and small, within government, within educational, within regular industries such as manufacturing, and also software development companies. So he brings to us a lot of knowledge with regards to how to improve the capabilities within your organization. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to work with Dave and driving a lot of value within customers and clients, even those customers in which I served as a practitioner. Dave has recently released as co-author a book entitled Critical Communication Capability Framework, which he co-authored. It's available on Kindle as well as on paperback and Amazon. Okay, today Dave in the future, Dave will join us to just provide us with some insights. He'll answer a couple of questions just to tease you on what he has to offer in a future presentation. And I think you'll enjoy it. Dave?
Yeah, thanks so much, Charles and Don. I'm really excited about getting with practitioners and having a conversation. I've done some recent itSMF presentations that focused on building your capability and looking really at the key moments of truth when you have a critical situation. And that could be anything from a traditional IT crit sit like a cyber attack, data breach, to a terrible operational issue like a supply chain issue that's really critical and affecting the business and all its key results areas. And also looking at things like business PR nightmares, like employee leaks of information, sensitive information, et cetera. So those are all critical situations. And in prior presentations, I focused on those key moments of truth in the preparation for, responding to, and following up in the aftermath of critical situations. So what are those key moments of truth, and how do we kind of think about the components of them and how to punch them up, how to make them more, build your capability, try to find some quick wins there. In this presentation that's coming up, I'm really excited because I want to focus on what's really near and dear to me, which is how do we make practice and drills easy? How do we do them regularly? How do we get C-level acceptance for the necessity of them? And how do we package them in a way that gets them taken up? So I love doing tabletop drills, mock press conferences, one-on-one press interviews, et cetera, and really simulating very well a situation so that when you get to the actual situation, and it's not an if, it's a when, that you're orchestrating in your response and you're practicing your response. The way I like to think of it is it's like a pianist. You have to practice your scales, your chords, your arpeggios, your pieces, and that all comes together in the performance. There's no substitute. For crits and handling, it's vital to go well beyond intellectual acceptance for the need for it to a practice response. Somebody's going to stick a mic in your face, and you're going to need to say something semi-intelligent. The decisions, the communications, the actions that you take in those critical situations are vital. So I will focus on things like tabletop drills, mock press conferences, media interviews, et cetera, and really focus on the exercises and drills to prepare for responding well in an orchestrated way when crit sits happen.
Dave, what do you recommend we can do to increase enterprise awareness of the importance of doing these tabletop exercises. I saw recently that like 77% of the companies that had cyber breaches had no plan for how they were going to handle crisis communications.
Yeah, it reminds me of disaster recovery in that the typical pattern, which is very unfortunate, is a disaster happens, then there's unbelievable awareness. Everybody's Twitter pated, they want to do something, and
Right.
then time passes, and then just not a lot gets done that's substantive and real. And part of it, I think, I attribute to it's a morbid topic. It's like it's something that's unpleasant to visit, so I don't want to visit it. I don't want it in my face. And so if I'm not thinking about it, it sort of doesn't exist or something. I don't know. It's a weird dysfunctional dynamic in organizations. I think the key for me is to make it real and present, but not morbid, and have tactical things that are clearly of value. So, for example, you don't want to do 5 day long workshops on this stuff. And what you want to do is do quick 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, where you get together and say, what are our key for example, holding messages, right? We've got a cyber attack. What do we say to the press when it becomes public? We need to predefine some holding messages, right? Holding messages that ring all the bells in our mission statement as an organization, et cetera. So making that real and present and short and punchy and tactical. And you can't get execs out and these for hours at a time for these sorts of things. So really the facilitation of that has to be crisp, to the point, and real. Like, this scenario happened to your competitor in your industry yesterday. This isn't like fairyland. This happens, and it will happen to you. It's not, it may actually be happening to you now, whether you know it or not.
You might not even know yet. Yes, correct. There's been a lot of moments recently.
Yeah, so I think you got to be constructive in your approach, and you got to build the urgency in a way that doesn't cause such a reaction, like a morbidity reaction, like I don't even want to deal with this. But it's more like, oh, I see. You're trying to help me. When somebody sticks a mic in my face, you're trying to make sure there's orchestration all the way behind it, that we do have holding messages, that I do know what to say, that I'm skilled in saying it. I mean, it's even down to really basic stuff, Don. Like, I have a customer who, they had a crisis. They had their war room, which they spent all sorts of money for this, and the press comes in the room. One cheap thing in the room that was bad is lighting. So they had shadows on their faces. So they look sinister, like Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader. That's a simple thing to fix. Right. Luke, I am your father. That's not where you want to be. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a dour subject, but there's dour consequences to all your key results areas. I mean, you say the wrong thing. We have removed all the malware from our systems, and your CEO says that, and he or she's way off a topic, and you haven't. Then you got to roll that back. Your stock drops 13%. You just don't want to be there, right? So I'm excited to talk about ways to get to collective capability, to practice capability, to real capability when those moments of truth occur. And very importantly, and this is what I like about frameworks. What the thing in frameworks, it could be ITIL, COBIT, whatever. It gives a shared idea of the problem space, a shared sense of the terminology, the techniques, so that when we're talking, there's no overhead. Like, so the CCC framework, excuse me, I'm excited about, because we need that. We have every single day, multiple times a day now, we get news reports of organizations having critical situations and disjointed responses to the critical situations, because there is no shared frame. Everybody's trying to do things in silos. The business operations is trying to handle supply chain issue, crises. IT is supposed to have it. And the truth of the matter is, we're digital organizations. Every organization is digital. It relies on websites, on e-commerce, on social media. So there's no escaping that.
Management, it's everything.
Yeah. So it's silly to try to work from silos and have IT guys handle IT stuff, business ops handles this, and exec comms, PR, business PR handles like HR nightmare type situations.
Your name came up on a recent call that I was on. This was an itSMF leaders call, and they were talking about, hey, you guys ought to listen to Dave Bolterock, because they were looking at implementing, one of the companies was looking at implementing major incident management. And what do we do to communicate effectively internally and externally? How do we empower our leadership to communicate? That becomes a career skill that ITS and, well, service management professionals across the board need. And they were saying, need to listen to Dave and his communication framework.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important, and ever more so. These things aren't going away, and the weakest link can bring you down. You have let's just say you have very good execs. They can talk the talk, walk, and exec comms, legal, your governance and compliance. They're all sharp. Then you get, here's Dave. He's a troubleshooter, and he's supposed to provide an update. And technically what he says is the right thing, but it actually is off message and starts a maelstrom, because what I say in an update relative to a critical situation, oh, that's not up in all regions. Well, it is up in all regions, but it's degraded in those. It's just making sure that everybody understands the importance of what they say, that they have the skills necessary. You have the right people in the right roles, the right technology, everybody sees the same information. So there's quite a lot to do, but it's not intractable, and that's the value. From service management, the value that an iTool can give, or a COBIT. It just gives everybody a shared frame, and they kind of know what to do. It's kind of like if you constantly run postmortem for incidents or projects. The agenda. We're going to talk about this, then we're going to talk about that, then we're going to talk about this, and you understand why you're doing it. And you understand what the output's supposed to look like, and you can react when it's off target. And that's the kind of thing here, is to get that skill level built up as a collective, because, and this is the most important thing, when you look at ITIL or COVID or the CCC framework or any of these kinds of frames, the main thing is collective capability. It's not enough that Charles is super smart, you're super smart and really good troubleshooter or communicator. Because I have seen, and it's very possible, it's a reality, that a bunch of collective communicators as a group become incompetent because they just don't have a shared frame of reference, shared information, shared visualization, shared tools, and they step all over each other. Well, you've seen it. It can be terrible in a critical situation. So having collective competence, where we have a shared frame, we visualization into the problem, information, and skills, the right skills, etc. That's when you get real orchestration, when you're all sort of flying in the right direction. And so that's what I'm excited to talk about. That only comes through drills and practices. So we'll talk about the different kinds of drills and practices you can do in the upcoming presentation, as well as how to make them poignant, sharp, accepted, taken up, etc.
That's going to be very exciting. I think that's one of the things we see in infos. We try to create silos of InfoSec and IT. We need to work together. We're one framework, we're one unit, and communicating as such requires a different level of perspective. And I'm excited about having you bring that.
Great. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I believe this is just a closed question, because I don't want us to just get stuck with just the IT focus per se. David, you mentioned we have digital businesses, right? How do we elevate this to an understanding that this is not an IT issue, it is a business problem that we need to deal with? Because once again, our businesses are digital these days, as opposed to it being, this is not an IT, this is a business issue. And how do we elevate this to help leadership in the C-suite really understand that there's true value in this, as opposed to simply it being?
I think they understand that that's the case, that they understand if there's a cyber attack or data breach, this is not just an IT issue, because saying the wrong thing, not understanding the SEC disclosure rules, when you're supposed to, et cetera, in one group or the other. You've got legal and compliance, you've got business PR comms, exec comms, the C-suite, you've got IT, you've got lots of different functions that are involved in communicating, acting, deciding, in the case of a crit sit. So I don't think there's any C-level exec out there that doesn't get that these are, in a digital business, a business-wide issue, because the simple measure of that, excuse me, is that it affects key results areas. It affects your brand reputation, your financial performance, your ecosystem health, all of those areas. So so it's important to. So I think they see that. What they don't see and don't have a clear way forward is, well, how do I get everybody singing from the same page in the handbook, right? How do I get it? So right now, the situation I see in organizations, over in exec comms, they know what a holding statement is. Business PR people know what a holding statement is. IT people don't. Some people in InfoSec know what a SEC disclosure rules are. When you can say, when you should say, when you must say certain things, when you must disclose a breach, right? And to whom. But then there's people over in exec comms that don't, right? So and they're all siloed in terms of the tools they use, right? So for example, exec comms has Sprinkler, which they use to sentiment analysis. They make a statement and then they want to see if the statement land. People in IT think Sprinkler is what they have on their front lawn. So and similarly, when it comes to measuring experiences, IT may have things like Nextink or Happy Signals to measure customer experience in the moment, but exec comms is not. That's important relative to employees. Employee comms when a critical situation is happening and you're responding to it. So there's a lot of different things, and I think really getting to a shared idea of what is the problem space, what does good look like in terms of capability, shared practices across all those groups, legal, governance and compliance, IT, exec comms, business PR comms, employee comms, C-suite, getting them all to have the same, these are our holding statements. This is our visualization into problem. This is our tooling for this stuff. These are the roles. And it is tractable. There's basic best practices, just like you have an iTool, that make a huge difference, that can shortcut building the level of capability that you need. So that's why it's exciting to me, because it's a very relevant topic for every organization. There are many gaps organizations have. And what I see, and it's the same with ITIL, there's relatively small things you can do that make a huge impact in your capability. Right. So why not start doing them? And it starts with getting everybody on the same page as to what does this problem space look like?
And starting with the realization that when we talk about digital business, we're talking about digital business workflows. The attack surface that people can attack against, those gaps are where our cyber criminals are getting in. That's where they're exploiting, and it could be the sales, the marketing, support, any angle of the business where there's a trade of information, there's also a risk. And we need to think about that in our interactions. So we do need to think about this much wider than just InfoSec and IT. It's service management, but with digital services, we need to understand the full work stream and how we have vulnerabilities, how we come together to reduce the risk and communicate the issues.
Yeah, it's been a long time since the transition's been made. It happened underneath our feet from IT reported to finance, traditionally, and was in support of the business. And now IT is the business is IT. There's no getting around that. It's everywhere. Right. And our consumers are digital natives, and just so all of this comes together to say we have to operate in a different way. And so there's the realization of that and the closing the gap on that. And that's where, I have a strong belief in frameworks to help with that. Even if they're imperfect, what a good framework does is it highlights the right things and hides the things that you don't need to see as much, and says, this is what's important. This is what needs to be managed. Yeah. And it's not, I get it and Charles get it. And we get it separately, and he's speaking different language than me, and then we get together and we think we're talking about the same thing. We're not. No, it's like we actually have a sense for these are the important things, and then these are the techniques around it, the methods around it, the concepts around it, the principles around it, and we're sort of in the same zone. Not, not perfectly, but if we get the more we can head towards a complete shared there, the more we can have really truly orchestrated responses and not have these disjointed responses. And that's cringeworthy. It's so cringeworthy to look at those and say, oh, you know, this executive saying that, this other executive's countermanding them, PR said something else, then you got to walk stuff back. Your trust and credibility drops like a hot rock. It's not pretty. And the truth is, a lot of that can be dealt with proper preparation, practice drills and exercises, small improvements to be made, and that's why I'm excited to talk about these concepts.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was a great overview of what we can experience and what we can plan to experience during your delivery. So I think it's going to be a great topic. Sounds like it touches all areas of the business, not only IT, but everything, including the customer to some degree, or the client.
And I think what you raise is a career topic. We need to elevate careers, because when we talk about just itSM or InfoSec or CISO, focus on communication.
Evolved, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. There are base career skills and perspectives, and this is clearly one of them. You're going to be everyone in digital organization is going to have some hand in some critical situation. This is way back before cyber attacks, etc. were the pace and ferocity we have now. I was at J&J. I joined Johnson & Johnson a couple months after I joined. We had the Tylenol crisis with the poisonings, etc. And that became a textbook case. And part of the reason that was a textbook case is that company figured stuff out fast. And there was no playbook at the time, but they figured it out. We have a leg up on them now because we have so many more technologies, so much more capabilities, stand up telemetry to understand, what are people saying? Who are the influencers? What's their level of influence? So we have a lot more challenges in that, they used to have the daily news. Now, and that was the news cycle once a day. Now we have constantly all these influencers, dubious sources promoting false narratives, bad actors, competitors going for us. So you really have to be in shape as a team to handle this. And again, to avoid the morbid and say, okay, we can't do everything. We're not going to be perfect tomorrow. It's like, it's like fitness is the perfect analogy because, I may want to be able to run as fast as Usain Bolt tomorrow. It's just not going to happen. But what can I do?
Right. Maybe to the block.
Yeah, I need like a giant slingshot. Maybe I could, and some roller skates. Yeah.
Well,
so Don, before we close, okay.
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
I was going to say, before we close, did you have any closing thoughts for Dave, or Dave, did you have any final comments before we close?
I'll let Dave go first, please.
I'll say it this way. I got involved in service management very early. I remember flying over to the UK and getting with the ITIL in its infancy and talking to practitioners, and it was exciting. And what I really liked about it was that, somebody said, does anybody have a good sample for an SLA, or somebody have a good postmortem agenda? And we would exchange stuff, and it got put in the books and stuff, but some of it, but it was just professionals helping professionals. And this is, I think that's what a framework can help with, is to getting that conversation going to help make a small difference or a huge difference in somebody. I've seen personally where these frameworks can make the difference between I have no job and I'm not succeeding, to I have a job and I'm succeeding okay, to I was going to fail miserably and I've succeeded wildly. So getting community around these ideas so that we can help each other. I mean, that's the general idea, is what is it that we can do to better prepare for, respond to, and follow up in the aftermath of these critical situations. We have a rough frame, and that's the thing about frames. When you look at things like ITIL or COVID, they're a frame, but that's exactly what they are. They're a wireframe, and there's all these best practices that emerge within that frame. That's the beauty of it, that it organizes into set areas. But that means where the magic happens is through practitioners, their discourse, their sharing, which is the only thing I can do is to help build a frame that practitioners can use to organize these things, to drive the conversations that help each other, that help, and then pull the whole industry up to a better posture than we see every day in the news in terms of their ability to respond to prepare for, and follow up on these crit sets.
Awesome. I'm very excited for us to have that session with you. I think our industry, I loved what you shared about the importance of us staying together and sharing best practices. And that's what we're doing in IT Service Management Forum. Our industry has changed while we were isolating at home. And part of that isolation has locked us off from one another in a way that's not healthy. So
Yeah.
I think our call to the industry is wake up and join us. Let's reconnect. It's the sharing of these it's the simple best practices. When you talk about things like SLAs, why does it matter? Well, traceability, experience, all of that stuff matters. Let's get back to the foundations of what is the simple thing that we must do to serve our customers better, to reduce risk, and continue to add the business value that is required of us. So that's why we're excited to have you come to present what you have on your crisis communication framework, because you have a way of articulating how industry has changed and how you need to kind of move in that direction to stay relevant. And that's what itSMF is all about. Chicago chapter, itSMF as a whole is committed to best practices, but we really need to come together differently than we ever have before. We need it now more than ever.
Well, Dawn and Charles, I know you're both in Chicago. The one best practice I need is when I'm in Chicago and I get that lake effect snow and it's blowing up my shirt sleeves and down my collar. I just need some kind of best practice to avoid that, because that's not good.
I moved from California. I'm not prepared.
Oh dear.
Best practice is to go outside right now and open up your collar, and you'll be okay.
Oh no.
Go
Okay.
outside.
So my best practice is I stay indoors and wait till springtime.
Oh, that's
Good deal. Good deal.
Well, thanks so much.
Got
Thanks.
that whole winter wardrobe thing worked out. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
come to Chicago. Can't wait to see you. But we also are so much looking forward to our event together. It'll be good. Thank
Cool.
you, Dave.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for this overview, and we look forward to the full show in the coming
All right.
Woo-hoo! All right.
I look
Thanks, guys.
good working with you guys. Bye-bye.
Nice. Look forward to it. Bye-bye.